Hi everyone. This is Maureen Belha Kamari going live today, and I'm going to get right into my presentation. My topic for today is, are you a home baker wondering how to deliver cakes to your clients? So basically today I'll be talking about how to actually deal with delivering your cakes, especially if you're a home baker who has just realized maybe that you're not able to bake and deliver anymore, or maybe you don't want to spend time delivering all the time. This is definitely the video for you. So that's what I'll be covering today. So I'll be sharing cake delivery options for home bakers. Now, I am a baker based in Nairobi, Kenya. So I'll be sharing details on what somebody in Nairobi, Kenya can do. However, I will be trying to also share general tips so that no matter which region you're in, you can be able to actually benefit from this. And secondly, I will be sharing a few cake packaging tips. These are going to help you avoid cake fails that we all know about that can be quite tricky, right? So again, my name is Maureen Bilhakamari. This is the Baking for Profit podcast. And in this channel, I discuss all things baking for business. I am the founder of Baking with Amari, where we share baking classes, cake decoration, and baking classes, both online and physical in Nairobi. We have recipe books and we sometimes put together baking events. I also have a bakery, a small bespoke bakery called Chiffon Cakes by Amari. I also share lots of information, online classes, master classes using our Baking for Profit brand. And in this channel, if you're a small scale baker, I share tips to help you gain clarity, stay motivated, and build awareness for your business so that it can grow and become a profitable business. Okay, so getting right to my thing. Now, before I actually start sharing the ways that you can actually deliver your cakes, I want you to know that when it comes to delivery, it does depend on what are you selling, right? What are your niche products? And this channel actually has another video about how to find your niche, so you can check it out after this. So it depends on what niche products you're actually selling. Is it cakes, regular cakes? Is it cupcakes? Are they custom cakes? That definitely comes into play. And are you doing pastries? There's people who are not selling cakes. They're selling donuts. They're selling meat pies, maybe croissants or something like that. Are you doing plain donuts? Are they decorated donuts? It depends. So once you identify what your niche products, this will help you know how to package and deliver your products. So please note that makes a difference. Like, for example, if I'm doing cupcakes, how I deliver those will be different from how maybe I deliver like a tall cake, right? Like this tall cake at the end. Or am I doing just regular cakes, size cakes that are not too tall? Or maybe am I doing, like I said, decorated donuts? It definitely makes a difference. And remember, it also makes a difference on how you're going to package these things, because are you going to package using like pizza boxes, like these shallow boxes? Is this how you're packaging your donuts? Are you going to be using regular cake boxes, tall cake boxes with a window? Are you going to be using the cardboard types? Are you doing the round, acrylic boxes? Are you doing the cupcakes with the inserts? Are you selling macarons, which, also need a certain type of box? I mean, it depends on what you're doing. So please note that a lot of that does come into play when it comes to actually delivering. So please note that I may not be covering that 100%, but that's something that comes into play. I do want to mention we are on TikTok, we're on Instagram. Please go follow Baking for Profit on TikTok and Baking for Profit program on Instagram. I share tons of tips on there as well that are very helpful to bakers. So what's the first way you can actually deliver your cake? Number one, cake delivery vendor. And I'm a very big fan of this. These are individuals or businesses, most of the time businesses, that actually deal specifically with food, or they have a focus on cake delivery. So I've dealt with those who do food like different things, and then I've also dealt with someone who does only cake delivery, right? So these types of businesses are a great option because I feel that they know how to handle food, they know how to handle cakes, and so there's less friction and less, explanation on what you have to do. Now, it's always good to explain anyway, but at least when you have somebody like this, they know exactly what it takes, or, what they have to do to handle a cake. And you have to explain a lot for them, which can be, over time. So if you're in any region and you know a cake delivery vendor, that's a good place to start. If you're in Nairobi, I have used two particular companies. Now, I will mention that I use Aaron G deliveries, like I think from 2019 to about 2021. So I use them for a couple of years. I don't use them now, but that's because I found another option. But you can search them out online, Facebook, whatever, and you can find Aaron G deliveries. They're based in Nairobi CBD. Another one in Nairobi is Shikilia stores. And the reason they're great is because they don't only deliver, you can also drop off your cakes on there, which is great, and leave them the whole day and just tell them like they have refrigerated delivery storage, I think, and also just plain delivery, plain storage. And you can actually tell your customer, I've dropped off the cake, collect. And if it stays an extra day, you can tell your client to actually pay for that extra day. Their rates are also quite manageable for home bakers, which I think is a great idea. And if I'm not wrong, please do search them online, like on Facebook, on Instagram. But I believe Shiklia stores, you can also rent a shelf, which is great as a baker, especially if you're busy and you know that you're always doing deliveries in Nairobi CBD. You can rent a shelf and actually, be using that for your deliveries, and it can be for different things. I use vendors who I send my writer to just collect stuff, and they have a cabinet or shelf at that place. So now, if you're in any other area that's not Nairobi or in another country, look around for cake or food delivery vendors in your region. Talk to them, ask them what their rates are, maybe compare their rates, and then ask them how they deliver. Make sure to test their services, maybe like do it once, tell them, hey, come deliver this cake and see how their services are. There's no other option. If you've never done this, the only thing is to test. You do have to take that risk of testing, but business is a risk, so we gotta do this. So I feel like the best thing for home bakers to use is a cake delivery vendor. But I also do feel like you can mix and match a lot of these ideas I'm going to give you. Like, I feel like you don't have to just use one vendor. You can actually mix and match, because when I started, I was doing this and now I'm doing something different. So, just something to consider. The second option that you can do as a home baker is use a taxi driver or a taxi service. Now, you can use like a trusted taxi driver. That is literally currently what I'm doing, and that situation works very well for me. Yes, this is a driver who actually uses the apps like Uber and Bolt and all that. But what I did is that I was actually referred to this person by someone, like a baker I knew. Actually, it was a baker who referred me her delivery guy, and then the delivery guy could no longer deliver for me. So they referred me to this person that I use now. And because I've used them numerous times, they know exactly how we do business together. So because we have that business relationship, they're just the easiest way for me. Now, the reason why I say taxi driver is because when they use the apps like Uber, there is that extra cost for them, or maybe, between us, it'll be like, they don't get the whole amount, obviously. But if you build a relationship with this person, they don't have to use the app to do the delivery for you. I hope you understand what I mean. So that means that if you talk to the taxi driver and you've used him a couple of times and you trust him, instead of using the app, he'll just tell you from this location to this location is this much, and they're more likely to charge better because in this particular instance he's getting the whole amount, right? The app doesn't get some of the money like it would when it was a ride. But only please do this when you are 100% sure of this person and you have full trust of this person. So that's what I did. So you can use a trusted taxi driver. That's our current method. I have two options of people. uh, Taxi drivers and anything to do with delivery can be tricky, because you can look for somebody and find that they've found a job, or they're no longer there, or they've traveled somewhere. So I always like having two people that I can call. So I have two taxi drivers in our contact that we use, that most of the time, if I call them a day ahead and I tell them I have a delivery, they're able to actually do it, which I trust better than anything. Of course, you can choose to use the service itself. What do I mean? I mean, like, going on to Uber, right? and just requesting a cab. And then when they get there, you tell them it's a cake delivery. I need you to deliver here. I personally am not comfortable doing that, but I know a ton of bakers who do it. So if you're comfortable doing that, you can do that. If you're in Kenya, you can use Bolt, you can use Little Cab. There's very many options of using in whatever region. I know Uber is all over the world, and there's different countries have different taxi apps, so you can check and see if that works for you. So second delivery method, taxi driver or service. And again, I am talking about cake, so you definitely need to worry about cakes. But I do want to tell you guys the reason I use the trusted driver is because this was somebody referred to me by somebody I trusted. um Maybe it's another food. The first person actually who referred me was a food vendor. She does food deliveries. You can also ask another baker if they know somebody that they use dedicated for that and it works. Or maybe you can use an Uber, especially I learned that when I request cabs in the morning, the people who are closest, which means they live there, tend to come first. So if you realize that person actually lives nearby, you can maybe build a relationship with them. And over time, if they're trustworthy and they do give you good service, you can use them over time instead of be doing the apps themselves. So just something to note. So that's one option. And remember, you always have to have two options. Don't have only one guy that you've put your trust in. Now, again, for the apps, right? If I'm talking about Bolt and you're in Kenya, Bolt, Little Cab, or all over the world, Uber, please know your limits. Because the reason I don't like using this is because Uber themselves have a disclaimer that they're not a food delivery service when it comes to that app. So when you're using it your own discretion and your own risk. And there have been some horror stories of drivers going with the cake or taking the long route instead, so it costs you more. So please do know your limit and figure out, what you're okay with, and then know the disclaimers of each company and all that stuff. And then you need to realize that if this is a taxi driver, they're not used to delivering cakes. So you need to over communicate with them on how to handle the cake, tell them how to hold the box and how, to deliver to the person. I've also had like used a difficult person who didn't want to come out of the vehicle and deliver the cake, and the customer didn't want to come out of the house and pick up the cake. So it became like such a thing. So this is why I tend to not use the apps, because of that friction. However, you can talk to the taxi driver and maybe add him a small amount so he's able to go to the door. Or you can talk to your client, tell them I'm using a taxi service, which means you have to go to the cab and collect the cake. So over communicate on both parties and exactly what to do. So for me, I do prefer the finding a taxi driver you trust. But if you are okay with using apps, taxi apps, you can use those as well. People have used them usually and they're fine. So just a reminder, please do hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment so far if this is helpful to you. I will appreciate it. The third delivery method is a motorcycle rider. Now, you can use riders, especially for smaller, less delicate packages. So we use them for chiffon rolls. Our chiffon rolls are not as delicate, and the way they're packed, they're not gonna, break or anything. So if you have cookies, if you have plain donuts or donuts that you've, arranged nicely somehow, or they're set, you should be fine. If you don't mind, if it jumps up and down a little bit and it's still going to be fine, like food or not delicate cakes, then you should be okay. So the first two services are especially for custom cakes or cream cakes or cakes that are very delicate. But if number three, this is for stuff that's not as delicate. I wouldn't even tell you to do this for frosted cupcakes because that can be tricky. I've had bad experiences with frosted cupcakes and cakes when it comes to a motorcycle. But there are people who do use this for cake at their own risk. So I literally have found an equal amount of bakers who use cakes and an equal amount of bakers who complain about using riders for cake. I personally don't believe in using motorcycle riders for cake, but there's some people who use riders who are very careful and they're able to get the cake in good condition. So weigh those options for yourself. However, for me, I will tell you for smaller, less delicate things, you can use riders. They're quicker, they're faster, and you package for them really nicely, and they do tend to work out very well. And depending on your region, because different regions are different, there's people who use, like, if you're within a small area, there's people who use like bicycles. But if you're in Kenya, especially, there's a lot of people doing motorcycle boda bodas. So you can use those instead because, they're easily available. Of course, test each vendor, test each rider to make sure that you're comfortable with him, whether it's cupcakes, whether it's donuts, and whether you want to risk cake. Make sure you test them out. I always test out a person and I'm like, deliver here, somewhere where I won't have friction with a person. If it's a friend or something and I'm delivering cake, I tend to test with people who, if something goes wrong, they're not going to complain. But please do test this. Now, what I would tell you specifically now, going to if you're a baker in Nairobi or if you're a baker in Kenya, I would tell you identify 2 or 3 motorcycle riders who are in your area. Most of these people are like freelancers, right? They just, park in an area and you call them if you need something. So, have 2 or 3 that you have a really business relationship with, that you send them maybe to do other errands, and you can start using them to deliver your cakes or your small, not so delicate cakes. And then over time, once you tell them, there's a writer who, if he's not delivering cake, he goes really quickly. He'll always ask me, "This is cake. Do I need to slow down?" And I'm like, "Yes, you do." And so he'll be more careful. So do gauge your relationship. See who you work with, who's very careful with your packages and knows exactly how to deliver in good condition. My other thing for this is that you can be a home baker who gets busy over time, right? And so I do know bakers who got very busy, and I particularly know one baker who actually bought a motorcycle with the little carrier in the back. So if you get busy, you're doing consistently 10 plus deliveries a day, consider purchasing a delivery motorcycle for your baking business because it might save you on the cost of delivery. But this is only if you're busy. This is only if you're a busy person who's doing 10 to 20 deliveries Monday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday. If you know you're busy, you can actually, buy a motorcycle. They're not extremely expensive like buying a vehicle, and then make sure you have the box so that you're able to deliver. And you can hire someone or have somebody who comes only when you need. You can just figure out how to work that out. I will tell you though, you do need to figure out what the regulations in your area is when it comes to deliveries, and also realize there's going to be a maintenance cost on that bicycle or motorcycle. So you need to figure out if that's worth it. So it's not always worth it. Like for me, I've never found that it's worth it. But for some people who their core business is baking and they're extremely busy, this might be the answer because delivery costs definitely over time, especially when you're outsourcing, do end up being a bit on the higher side, right? So you do want to gauge the two and see what you're going to do, right? Like for example, if you're looking at Nairobi CBD, if you're a Nairobi baker and you get a motorcycle, if your motorcycle enters the central business district, they do need to have a specific permit, especially if they have a box. There is a license you're supposed to pay for that, especially if it's branded. There's a lot of rules to that. So that's why I'm telling you, please note what your regulations in your area is, and please know the maintenance cost. If it's worth it in your business and you're busy, definitely consider to get it. So the third delivery method is a motorcycle rider. The fourth method is individual delivery via PSV, public service vehicle. This is literally the first method I used when I started my business, and I was only selling banana breads. I used to deliver myself, then I realized I'm getting busy, I cannot deliver. So I decided to get a guy who I would literally send with 10 or 20 breads, or sometimes he would come back, pick up stuff, and go. And he would actually do the deliveries for me. For me, what I did is actually gave him a delivery note. So he would go, he would deliver the bread, the customer would sign the delivery note, and he would come with it in the evening, or he'd come back within it the next day when he's collecting. So what this did is confirm that the person has received their banana bread. So when I'm sending the guy money, I'm paying him for something he actually delivered. And of course, it's good to talk to them, tell them, to be hygienic and clean and how to talk to your customers. So this can be something you do. And if you're busy, even if you're a busy home bakers, you might get somebody to help you out. And the person who's your assistant can also be, I know a lot of bakers who use their assistant as slash delivery people. Like maybe if the person's leaving, going home at 3, they can come out with a cake and do one delivery. So you can multi-purpose your people. Maybe I know a baker who has interns who do that. Like they come and intern, and then she also sends them for delivery. As long as you instruct them and train them on what they're supposed to do, they can actually do the delivery, and you can make sure you're boxing your cake in a way that's safe for that person to do that. So consider this if you're just getting started, you don't want to commit to maybe because cake delivery services are expensive. Uber sometimes or taxi services are more expensive. You might find that paying the person and that transport fare or the transport amount is less. You might opt for that, especially if you're within a small region like a locality and you find that's working for you. You can do that when you're getting started. I did that for the first year and it worked perfectly and it was cheap enough for me to manage. So I think it's a good idea. And then at the time, I was doing banana breads and they had no frosting. So the handling wasn't, of course he had to be careful, but he didn't have to be so careful. So that was the plus on that. The fifth bonus method I wanted to add on to here for anybody who wants to consider this, because I do think it's something to definitely consider, is working with food delivery apps as a vendor. So what do I mean by this? If you've ever seen Uber Eats, if you've ever seen something like Glovo, if you're in Kenya, and I know it's in other parts of Africa, these are people who basically deliver food to all manner of consumers. So if you want to outsource delivery, right, or also capitalize on the marketing of those apps, because a lot of consumers have those apps and they like ordering out, you can join the online apps and they deliver, right? Glovo, Uber Eats being the two that I can think of at the top of my head right now. Please do read through their terms and conditions, right? Know that they do have legal requirements. You do have to have a registered company for most of the time, but you should, if you're getting busy, if you're getting very serious, please do consider registering a company. They also take a certain percentage of every sale that you make on their app, right? So I don't remember what it is right now, but I did check. Like, I think I was trying to get into it like 4 or 5 years ago. And at the time, I'm not sure which one was 17%. So you need to look at what for you is okay, right? So you can check it out and see, hey, this it's worth it for me. Make sure you account for it in your pricing, and then you can just join the app if you meet their terms and conditions. And that helps you, especially if you're new, because now you're starting to get your name out. Because if people have this app, there's many people who have the app, they're able to see the things that you offer. So that's something to consider when it comes to delivery options for you as a home baker, right? So I hope those five will definitely help you. So now I want to get into the cake packaging tips to avoid, right? These will help you avoid the cake fails. I know we've all seen those cake fails that people post on social media, and you do not want that happening to you. However, before I get to that, I do want to mention we do have a 6-month online course. This is for home bakers who are looking to either start or streamline their existing business, right? You can join it today. We do give support on Facebook and email, and the class basically just help you get clear on your offer, helps you with costing and pricing profitably. I cover a lot of digital marketing and how to actually create your brand and grow your brand online, and how to launch and sell or relaunch and sell your business. So if you want to get into that, I'll definitely leave the link at the bottom. You can check out the site and see if you can join. The class is 6,000 shillings for Kenyan payments. It's $60 for non-Kenyan payments. So, 3 cake packaging tips to avoid cake fails, because we don't want cake fails like this, as you can see. Like, for me, that's my biggest nightmare. Like, a client calling me and telling me, oh, your cake it just didn't get here in good condition. I'm always waiting like for the picture to see what is this. I think it's happened to me only twice, thank God. So that's why I'm a stickler for like using specific people when I'm delivering, because I don't want cake fails, and I don't want to be on social media being posted that I did this. Okay. So 3 tips on avoiding cake delivery disaster. Number 1, use dowels for cakes that have filling in them. Number 2, use the right packaging, right? And number 3, ensure you use a delivery vendor who knows how to handle your cake. And my bonus is communicate. I've found that there's bakers who don't communicate with their clients when they're doing delivery, which is weird. So number 1, when I say use dowels, most of us will tort cakes, right? We'll tort, or we'll have 3 layers, then we'll put filling, and then we'll, deliver the cake. So even if it is a 1 tier, and especially for us, our 1 kg chiffon cake does tend to be quite tall. What we discovered is if we don't put a dowel in there, even if the delivery guy is careful, Sometimes if he moves a little, because it's a very soft cake and it's whipped cream, it'll wiggle a little bit and sometimes it slides. Now, thank God we discovered this in the fridge, like while we were doing a second coat. And so we realized we cannot be taking these cakes like this. So we put dowels in every cake that has a layer and in between has filling, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what the weather might be. It might be very soft. The guy might break really quickly. So you want to make sure you put dowels in your cakes. It just kind of holds all the layers together. Now, my disclaimer for this is we always have a little piece of paper attached to that cake delivery. And what we're usually doing is we're telling the client to please remove the dowels before eating the cake. I know some of you may have seen these pictures and messages going around of a cake where some kid tried to do like a smash cake and smash their face into the cake. And there was a wooden dowel and it just like goes into their eye or something, which is just horrendous. So we don't even use the wooden skewers. Generally, we use the plastic straws. But please have a note attached to that order to alert your customer that there is a dowel in there, right? So I'm always writing, please, there's straws, remove them, make sure people don't eat them. They're non-edible. Please communicate with your clients. Number two, use the right packaging. What do I mean by this? No flimsy boxes. If you need to, double box, right? Like sometimes our chiffon Swiss roll boxes are great, but they're very light. So most of the time, or all the time, if we're delivering, we put them inside another cardboard box. So make sure if you've seen that your cake box is flimsy, don't send the delivery guy with just a flimsy, especially if you're using like a rider. Make sure they have somewhere to put that box into. The only time we don't double box is if it's a vehicle like a taxi driver or like a vehicle or cake delivery service. But that's because that person knows they're going to lift that box carefully and they're going to take it to the client very carefully. But if that is not your case, find another box, put them in there. I have literally put the cost of an extra box for every cake we sell, even if we don't always sell it with a cardboard box. Because just in case I look at the situation and I find that we need a second box, it won't be an extra cost to me. So please consider double boxing if you are delivering. Just putting your cake box inside a bigger box for handling and just so that you have a secure box for your delivery. The third one is use a delivery vendor. I just shared 5 options. And even when it comes to the taxi driver, the reason why I stay away from the taxi services is because I prefer a taxi driver I've used at least once or twice, and I've explained to him how to be careful. I've explained to him, don't put the cake on a seat that's going to be slanted like this. Put it in the trunk in the back, or you can put it like on the passenger seat, and I make them remove the mat where people have been putting their feet. And, he either flips it or he puts it directly on the clean mat at the bottom. So that means that it's not going to move around a lot. So you need to really use people or explain to people exactly how to handle your cake. Over communicate to people. I'd rather tell you too much than not tell you enough. Over communicate to people on exactly how to deliver the cake so it gets there in good condition. My bonus, communicate with your client. So one of the things we do is if we're delivering your cake tomorrow, first thing is that I always tell you that one of our admins is going to call you and tell you when the cake is on the way. So when the guy literally comes to collect the cake, she calls and says, hey, this delivery guy is on his way with your cake before he leaves. Then I give the delivery person your number. And depending on the relationship, we also might give you the number of the delivery guy and his name. After that, when he gets it, and we'll tell you, this is the guy, this is his name, this is his number, he's going to call you when he gets there. And then when he gets there, he calls the person. So that you're not getting to a place where you've sent a guy, you haven't told your client that the guy is on the way. And then when the guy gets there, there's nobody home. It takes 1 hour to get a hold of the client. That's extra cost for you. Maybe the delivery guy is going to charge you extra for waiting. It's also maybe possibly exposing the cake to warm weather or whatever. So communicate so that the client knows to tell you the right time and make sure somebody is there to receive the cake, and also for you to keep track of the whole process. Once the cake is delivered, our delivery guy always calls to say that he has delivered the cake. And then we will message or call the client to confirm that you have received the cake. So that when we're paying the delivery guy, we know that the cake reached, right? You can also use the method that I showed you if it's your rider, if you have a specific motorcycle for your business, or you're using the public service person, have them have a delivery book where the client actually signs that they have received the cake. So this makes that whole system of distribution and delivery easy for you, and it makes sure everybody's confirming at every step of the way exactly what's happening with the cake. And remember, especially if you're kind of people who you take a deposit for the cake and you're not fully paid for the cake, and then once the cake is delivered is when the person will pay you. You've got to confirm that the person actually received the cake, so then you can ask for the deposit, right? So you want to make sure that you over communicate with all parties when you are delivering so that there's less friction. I have found when you do that, we don't have friction on, oh, there's nobody at home or anything like that. We just don't, because we tend to over communicate on that, and so that the client knows when the cake. We've even had suggestions where the person wasn't home, and so they found a place or somebody to go collect the cake for them. So it makes it easy for you and the client to actually deliver the cake and get paid. So you do want to communicate. Please communicate. I've heard scenarios of bakers who sent cakes and they don't know if the cake arrived or something like that, which is just the worst thing. So please do be aware of that. So I do hope this video has helped you. Leave a comment below on whether this video was helpful. Share below if you're delivering cakes, which method do you use currently, right? Share below which method do you use. And if you haven't decided out of the 5 options, which method are you going to be using? Make sure you share that. I will be watching. I'll definitely check out the comments and I'll respond. And I hope this has helped you, right? Remember, if you're interested in just streamlining or starting a cake business, especially at home, we do have that online class. It's going to be linked in the description so you can check it out. And if you need help, I can definitely help you out with that. Make sure to like and subscribe. Watch the next video, right, on exactly mistakes the bakers make when they're marketing online and how to fix them, right? I was making these mistakes when I first started marketing my business online, and I fixed them. So I share exactly how to do that so you don't make the same mistakes. All right, guys, I hope this has been helpful. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.